The weather outside is frightful, but you're tuned into the most delightful podcast that there is in existence right now. It's Inside the Game.
That's an adjective.
Ryan's like, what? Yes, it is delightful, I guess, in a way, but it is terrible outside right now. But it's okay. We made it in one piece. Ryan and I did. It doesn't really compare to what they got going on in Russia, though. Have you seen what's happening over in, up to 10 feet in certain areas, I think, of snowfall that they've gotten?
Yeah, we talked a little bit pre-show. The other day, we talked a little bit pre-show about that because you were talking about how your car was snowed in. I was like, well, it could be Russia. And you watch the videos of, like, people have to shovel, like 10 feet of snow just to, like, create a pathway. And then it just gets covered up again. And then all the people jumping off the apartment buildings into the snow.
Yes.
And the apartment complex or whatever sent emails like, there could be cars underneath. Please stop jumping. I mean, they're not wrong, but
could be a lot of things underneath. And you also could get caught in the snow and then just stuck there, and then you have nowhere out. No, the video that I was seeing yesterday, at least the one that appeared on my X, was an individual who had to dig his way to his car, but literally a tunnel through the snow, not like clearing the snow out. He had to like go underneath it in order to get to his vehicle. Just absolutely wild stuff. And also, I forgot to get a brush before the start of winter, so this has been my my car brush so far this year.
Oh, wow.
Just kind of
you got a broom?
Mr. Miyagi in that thing. Well, inside we do, but like not one that I
broom.
bring with me. I know I gotta bring one. I gotta go get one and bring one with me. You know,
at least
but
in the house, and when you're trying to leave, you have a broom.
There you go. Yeah. Well, I feel like I can just push through it, right? You know, that's also why I wear a sweatshirt outside as opposed to a winter coat. Sometimes people are like, you don't want to put a coat on? I'm like, yeah, I'll be okay. You know, ain't my first rodeo. That was a voice crack right there. Ooh, don't go back and cut that one. But Nate Wangler, Ryan Glinsky on Inside the Game. Not the first time my voice is cracked. I ran for office in school once, and my voice cracked during my vice presidential speech in the gym. Yeah, that was it was a good speech, but I ended up losing by like one vote. But anyways, kicking things off here on episode 212 of Inside the Game. As always, appreciate you guys joining in here on Wednesday. 2 more shows this week. We got a packed show coming up for you guys here today. I know we talked about the AFCON final going back on Monday, but this seems like a topic that could literally span the entire week. It's not something that we can just talk about once and leave behind because the story keeps getting bigger. Morocco accusing Senegal, actually filing a lawsuit against Senegal. Yeah, they actually took it to that point, accusing them of black magic before the penalty kick, and the referee should be arrested. Again, I don't envy soccer/football referees. I think they are one of the more persecuted bunches in all of sports as we get this one underway. So here we go. Morocco is accusing Senegal of black magic during the final because they walked off the field after a disallowed goal. They say it messed with Brahim Diaz's penalty take. The Moroccan politician said that the ref of the game should stand trial, rather. Senegal could face punishment from FIFA. Ryan, I don't know if there's any basis in which to punish a team if we're talking about black magic. There has to be, in my mind, some sort of physical evidence. It also reminds you that obviously these countries are far older, at least these areas of the country, and a lot of these cultures are far older than even our country itself. So it kind of makes you understand exactly why they think something nefarious in terms of the other world may be going on. But I find it hard to think that FIFA is going to have any sort of leg to stand on if it comes to black magic. This seems like a reach beyond imagination. And we're not even talking about all the other stuff that kind of poured out into the street and the way that the Moroccan fans really kind of carried themselves in that environment, which I think is even more troubling. But
it just means more over there. That's all it means.
I get it. But
more.
What says you about this?
It just means more. That's all it is. It just means more. They take it to a severe level, and that we can't understand here. We can't fathom here in the United States in terms of sports. Sure, we could talk. We've talked about the SEC and their crazy antics, but it just means more over there in terms of soccer. Anywhere in the world, this just think of the SEC on steroids, and then times that by 1,000,000. That's what this is. You don't have lawsuits about football games here. We don't have I guess you could say Ohio State last year filed a lawsuit after a flag was planted. But I'm talking
that's
about
tangible stuff.
I'm just talking about the results of the game. They don't.
Yeah.
They don't at all. This doesn't happen. And black magic's a thing that's been talked about before. Like Arsenal was accused of the dark arts, the black magic a couple of years ago. Like it's just nothing.
Right.
It's just something to try to get a team after you lose a game. That's really all it is. It's about that, and that's just what it happens to be. And I mean, again, nothing's gonna happen. The only thing that I could see, Senegal's. I should have phrased it a little bit better there. But the only punishment Senegal could view from this is the fact that they try to walk off the field, and that's what they're trying to do is to stop teams from potentially doing this in the future. And you've got to make an example of it right away. That's exactly what this is. And that's the punishment. I should have phrased it, my bad, a little bit better. But that's what they're trying to do is to make a punishment so teams don't do this in the future. And we have the World Cup coming up, so obviously you don't want that to happen in the World Cup.
Yeah, well, and that's where I think for FIFA, you talk about making an example of this situation. Yeah, I mean, obviously Senegal deserves some level of punishment if they're going to just walk off the field just like that. But it also, there's layers to this. There's a reason why you showed those 4 different clips back on Monday. It wasn't just one thing, right? It was the fight for the towel. It was the fans trying to storm the field. It was then obviously being accused of black magic now for Senegal. But then you see it pour out into the streets. And listen, I get it, because this is one of those things and I included this in the intro to our show, and I didn't get to it, but like you talk about bucket list items, like that almost could be our question of the day. Like what's just one bucket list item in your life? One of my bucket list items, outside of a ride along in an F-16, which I think would be great, I'd probably pass out because I'm not used to the G-forces. But the other thing outside of that is to go see a football match in a powerhouse European country. Either that, or it could be Africa or Italy. It could be anywhere else.
Italy's not part of Europe.
No, I know. I'm saying outside of Europe. I'm saying Africa or anywhere else where the game.
I was just wondering. You said a European
power,
I'm not, and you go to Africa. I'm like,
no, sorry. I should have explained that one a little bit better. But anyways, that's something that's on my list because of this, because of the way that people migrate to the stadium and the way that they chant and walk together, right? It's a cultural experience. But so I understand where the emotional component comes from. And when you see these big international matchups, it's going to pour out into the street, and people are going to say things they're not proud of. One of my favorite chants of all time is "No German bombers in the air" by England whenever they play Germany. Is it a classy move?
Got carried in the war.
Is it? Well, yeah. Thank God for American engineering. But either way, is it classy to troll them about you know what? I don't know. I mean, it's not like all the German people wanted that. Clearly, they want to kind of leave that in the past. But hey, as you talked about, it just means more, right? So when we look at this, and we look at all the antics that went on outside of the stadium, I don't think there's any way FIFA can stop that from happening in the AFCON final, right? You're going to see a lot of those antics, but the stuff that they can clean up is the stuff with the towel, trying to fight that away from the backup goaltender. That's ridiculous in my mind. The fact that that was allowed to continue to happen is just, I get the mental games, but like at a certain point when it's 4-on-1, what is that guy supposed to do? Outside of just fight for his life to try and keep his hands on that towel. When it comes to the team walking off the field, yeah, FIFA, you can deal with that. And you can deal with the hysteria of accusing another team of black magic. There are tangible things that we see that go on. And I believe in spirits. I believe in curses. I do believe in all those things. We talked about that back on Monday, some of the biggest curses in sports history. I think it's a real thing. And I think that energy exists in the atmosphere. But this, in my mind, it seems like a kettle calling the coffee black kind of situation, or the coffee calling the kettle black, I should say. Whereas there's a level of hypocrisy to this when it comes to the Morocco side. Like, you're going to accuse Senegal of doing all these evil things, but yet your fans conduct themselves this way, your team conducts itself this way. That's the thing that's really kind of flabbergasting to me, that this continues on. My guess is that both countries would be like, well, this is kind of a black eye. But again, this is talking from a place of cultural ignorance. Man, I've never seen these countries play. I've never been to an AFCON final. I've never really been on the front lines of something like that. So I'll be the first to tell you that I'm not the most qualified person to comment on this. I just think it's a bit ridiculous. And there are things that FIFA can clean up about it.
Yeah, no, they can, and that's exactly what it is. Is they're just trying to make sure this doesn't happen in the future, and especially with a massive World Cup that's going on in the United States, World Cup, and I mean these teams are both in it. Morocco, Senegal. There's a couple other nations that participated that are still in it, and Morocco being the side that created most of this. Like, Senegal kind of just reacted to a lot of what Morocco did, and Morocco, a team, of course, that went to the semifinals a year before, or not year before, tournament before. They're poised to have another, or positioned to have another deep run here in 2026. So they are a team that might go far again, and you can't allow this. And they're also talking about the club level too, because every year there's tournaments or cup competitions, I should say, whether that is in the Champions League or domestically, or Europa League even too. They don't want clubs to do this because this was a knockout game, a cup final, and they don't want teams to just walk off the field like they did here. So you got to make an example at some point. And we're talking about, the Moroccan team. I don't really feel bad for them at all for losing this game based on what they did. Like, the whole towel thing was a whole thing that happened the whole tournament. Don't just think this just happened one time. No, they did it the whole tournament, and every goalie has felt the wrath of this thing of losing it. Like, people don't realize this. That game was downpouring. It was raining, so the goalie had to constantly wipe his gloves, because at some point you can't rub it on your shirt because it's wet as it is anyway. You got to wipe your face so you can still see everything. So I know it's a towel and it's a silly thing to talk about, but it meant a lot for the goalie because he needs to prepare for himself. But I guess trying to take your team off the field, that's just crazy in my mind. Like, you can't just walk up and quit. Like, I know people would think of the bad boy Pistons back in the day, what they did, but the Celtics also did it. So you can't just get up and quit at that point. And Senegal, it's just a messy situation. That's all it is. And this can't happen again, especially in the World Cup, and FIFA's got to do something about it.
Well, you can't be the bully and the victim at the same time. Those two things cannot exist at the same time, which is the thing that really catches me the most when we talk about this story. Because Morocco right now, if you're talking about, if you're saying that was happening the entire tournament, and really it was only kind of brought to our attention in this AFCON final, well, then that's, in my mind, that's an example of, again, you're being the bully and now you want to play the victim.
They also hosted the tournament, so there's a little.
A little bit of pride when it comes to that. So no, you can't. And so that's the thing that really kind of catches me off guard the most about what this Moroccan team does, and now these claims that they're making afterwards. Like, you want to act this way, you want to do these certain antics to try and give your guys a mental edge, to try and do everything you can in order to win that final. But yet, at the end of the day, you're the one kind of spurring that on. You're the one kind of bullying the other side into reacting a certain way. And then you're going to throw your hands back and act like, woe is me, I didn't do anything, this is their problem. I think it's just it's also weird how the game went too. I mean, how much added time there was at the end that, allowed that game to finish the way that it did. I get it.
There's going to be added time, my man.
Right, that's true. But, maybe at the end of the day for FIFA too, this is a reminder that, hey, if you want this competition, if you want this World Cup in the United States to go as smoothly as you want it to go, security is going to be a top measure for this tournament, whether that's security leading up to the matches, whether that's security in the stadiums. again, these are things, and I'm not saying that all of these passionate fans we saw at the AFCON final are going to go to the World Cup. Again, there's many extenuating circumstances, including the money, that it's just going to make it really hard for a lot of people. But these are things that FIFA, at the very least, needs to pay attention to leading up to the World Cup. What do you got? What's going on? Something happened?
I just heard a really weird noise outside.
Someone hit something, an
No,
inanimate
just
object.
something like grinding up on something. It didn't sound right, so I was like really curious. My bad.
Somebody definitely hit a pole or something.
No, it caught me off guard there because it was kind of loud. Like, for the people who don't know, like, I'm probably 10 feet from the window here, and like just outside the window is the parking lot. And like, I don't know, it just sounded weird. Like, that was a really weird sound. I don't know. My bad.
Someone needs to get their brakes checked.
No, it didn't sound like brakes. Just sounded like
scraping against something.
Yeah, scraping against something. And I mean, I know that there's people that come into the parking lot all the time because there's a tropical smoothie. There's a physical therapy place, and obviously we're inside of a soccer building, but no one would come here yet in terms of practicing. But no, that's just weird. Really caught me off guard.
Yeah, I mean, it's a decent donut parking lot. I've never done it before. I don't want to throw out my power steering,
especially right now because there's nobody here.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, nobody here. It's piled up. Where are you parked? Are you parked right in the middle?
Oh, there's the noise again.
You're curious. If you just want to go check, I mean, go check, man. Just
we're
sure
good.
You're doing all right.
No, where I'm parked, I'm looking at my car right now. It's like
like
the next row. It's like the first row in.
Good.
That was weird.
No black magic going on out there that you're aware of?
Maybe. We've talked a lot about magic recently, so I wouldn't put it past them.
Very well could be.
What's going on out there?
But absolutely, yeah, it's just a ridiculous, wild story in that one. And like I said, I don't read too far into it. I mean, we see this type of stuff every year. And I mean, you just mentioned it. Like, the AFCON itself is just absolutely wild sometimes with these things that go on. But
trying to put a ref on trial too is just crazy. Like,
wild.
A politician said that. A actual politician from Morocco said we should put the ref on trial. If we're being honest, as Lions fans, we could put a ref on trial every game if we really think about it. You could think of the Cowboys, pick up the flag.
That ref should have gone on trial 1,000%.
Skipper reporting. What else do we got? When KJ Wright batted the ball out of the end zone. We could talk about that. We could talk about if Golden Tate was in or not, and if he was touched, 10-second runoff. Like, as Lions fans, we could put the referee on trial every single game if we really wanted to, because there's always something sus that happens. And in terms of refereeing, all we want is consistency in every single sport. Like, if you're going to call that a foul, that's got to be called a foul. If you're going to send someone off, that you got to send someone off for the same exact challenge. It can't be just this and that. Like, it shouldn't be, I felt this one should be, but this player wasn't sent off. Or just in football, that's pass interference, but that's not called pass interference. Like, we all fans want is consistency in terms of refereeing. Yeah. And if it's a missed call, it's a missed call. Well, then you better not call it on the next one that happens to the other team. That's all people want. And it's just like putting a ref on trial. I will say this. I know it's not a bold take because I've heard it time and time again. Refs should have their own press conferences after the game. Like,
100%.
Like, this isn't my own original take, but we've never said it obviously on the show. But I think that they should absolutely be questioned after the game. Like, for instance, throw back to the Lions, Cowboys wild card. So what made you pick up the flag? Was it, I don't know, maybe Jerry Jones' influence? Was it maybe Des Bryant walking out onto the field without a helmet, which also should have been a flag? Did he influence it at all? Is it just because it's the Lions and you don't want to see them win? What was actually going through? Also, I would like to see JT Barrett short press conference because that looked clearly short. But no, it would be. I would like to see a referee press conference. Maybe there's a league out. Like, if you're an up and coming league for any sport, whatever it is, I think that's one way to grab a lot of people's attention. Because if there's controversial calls, like if you're what football league is out there? The XFL or the USFL or what league is it? What the Michigan Panthers were in, or
XFL.
Now it's the XFL.
I believe so.
So if I'm the XFL, I am interviewing refs after the game. Like, that is a way to
Yeah.
get people's attention because, A, they're going to want to watch the game to simply see if there's a controversial call. And
Yeah.
they want to see the press, and the press conference should be televised. Like, it should be televised everywhere. Like, whatever, if it's on ESPN, televise it. Like the way that you do any coach and player press conferences. I'm just saying.
Yeah. I don't think I do think they have a union, and I don't think they would ever allow that. But I see where your mind's at with that.
But
it reminds you a little bit of Jim Joyce. I mean, like there's no formal press conference, but you still get the audio from him saying, I messed it up, I booted it.
But if you
I
F
think
up, like coaches and players do all the time, referees
true.
aren't perfect human beings.
No, I agree.
Coming from a TikTok chat coming from Coach Ender. Again, if you want to get in your comments and make sure you head in anywhere. He says referees do have to write a post-game report that explains all of that. Officiating supervisors have to go over them. Do they make the day of light though? Like, do those?
Well, no, there's an internal review. It's the same thing with baseball too. I mean, umpires have to write a report after game. The league reviews it, right? It's not for public eyes. They don't like broadcast it. That's the thing, right?
Okay.
That's what I'm saying. Like they do have reports.
It needs to come public. I need to see these things. Like
especially in minor league ball, like you'll have like an umpire who former umpire, Bill Welke is his name, I think, longtime major league umpire, but he overlooks all of the minor league umps. So they have to write reports. They have to, especially if there's an ejection, like there's a whole process there. Like that's why a lot of umpires won't throw people out, because there's more paperwork involved with that. This is for the same reason that a police officer sometimes won't pull you over for going 10 over the speed limit some nights, although he saw you doing it, because that's extra paperwork. It's all extra paperwork.
Well, you know what? Also, Coach Ender sent a "I'm new here" sticker or GIF into our TikTok chat. Well,
what's up, my man?
Coach Ender, well, thank you for joining us. We're live here on TikTok 9 to 11 every single day. First hour is all soccer. Second hour is all other things related to sports. So thank you for tuning in today. Let us know where you're from too, by the way.
Yeah.
But how about this? Instead of the paperwork, we just do press conferences, because we don't have to do paperwork. They just talk for 20, 30 minutes afterwards. I feel like that's like the same amount of time, if not less, but you do have to face the public eye. But at the same time, I want to see it. I would like to see this. Yeah. I don't know why, but I think that if the players and the coaches that F up, that have to constantly go in front of the public eye and ask and answer the questions, then I think the referees have to, because they're a part of the game. I think you do.
That's not a ridiculous thing to say. Let's continue this conversation on the other side. I really do like this talk, but we'll talk a little bit more about this. We also got some U.S. men's national team talk as well, giving you an update on some of the players playing overseas. Again, continuing to get more and more significant minutes and roles, despite the fact that all of Europe would tell us that we're crazy and they're trying to take our page down. So we'll talk about that and much more coming up next. Take our first break here on Inside the Game. Back live and Inside the Game, episode 212 here on the National Soccer Network. Nate Wangler alongside Ryan Glinsky. Ryan, I hear we got one more comment from Coach in the TikTok. What's he got to say?
He says, the only ref I'd like to hear do a presser is Bill Kennedy. LOL. Yeah, I think that would be interesting. He always explains stuff like not weird, but in just an unusual way, I guess I would say. About how the decision came to that. So, yeah, I think Bill Kennedy would be a good one. Who was the NBA referee that sold games back in the day?
Tim Donahue.
Tim Donahue?
Yeah, Donahue. I think it was Donahue.
Back then, I would have loved to hear what he would have to say.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, we know why, but no, that'd be great. A Jim Joyce one right after, that'd be a good one. Right after the fact.
I mean, that was a moment where, like, you had to, right? Like, you had no choice if you were the media, because the entire storyline of that game came down to that one call. And, like, there's no call in my mind that is more blatantly egregious than that one. You can talk about pass interference, Rams and Saints. You can talk about whatever sort of
good one,
whatever sort of call that you want to. But even then, like, you could somehow make an argument that maybe they saw this or they saw that. No, Jim Joyce just straight up missed it. And it ushered in the new era of replay and everything else. So I think that's the reason why the media kind of latched on to that story so quickly. And they're like, we have to get Jim Joyce's side of the story, because he just cost Armando Galarraga a spot is one of less than 25 pitchers who have ever thrown a perfect game in Major League Baseball history. So, but I think it's interesting because in a roundabout way, Galarraga became a part of history that night, and he is pretty much, him and Jim Joyce are the two reasons why there's replay review in baseball now. Like, that was the most, like, important moment that led to replay review. And obviously we talk turning this into the soccer conversation, with all the technology that we have to review everything now and go back and change calls, I'm sure that there were certain things that necessitated that. You know, like we talk about, like, the handball during the Gold Cup against Mexico, or the hand of God. That was one of the more notorious handballs that we've ever seen. Now, mind you, that was a long time ago. But there were all other instances that led to, once we had the technology to do it.
Oh, yeah, you think
leading into replay review.
2010 World Cup final. Gosh, who was the player that went a cleat straight to the chest of Xabi Alonso that was only given a yellow card? Forgot. Yeah, that would have flipped. I mean, Spain ultimately won, so probably wouldn't have mattered. But anything can happen in those situations.
Well, Spain was unstoppable too during that generation.
Yeah, but that game went.
They were.
The only goal wasn't until 115th minute from Iniesta.
That's true.
So again, that game may not have gone into extra time, but at the same time, it's weird. And
the U.S. ended their 35-game win streak.
Sometimes it's weird, though. Sometimes when players go down a man or so, they somehow play better. So it's kind of weird. Like, sometimes weird things happen when you go down a man. But no, it would have been interesting to see how much that would have affected the game. I'm trying to think of anything U.S. related. I can't think of any controversy. In terms of, like, wow, that was a missed call or that could affect the game. I can't think of anything on top of my head that's a U.S. men's national team. Obviously,
U.S. men's national team specifically. I mean, I guess you could argue that handball in the Gold Cup, but even then, I don't know how egregious that was. You look at the picture, I mean, it looks bad, but you watch it back in live time, it's like, So
I would say Mexico 2014 because Robin flopped, obviously, and then given the PK. So there's that one. But yeah, no. Maybe we'll come up with a segment when we actually have time to think about that. Maybe we'll come up. I'll search up some ideas, see if there's anything.
Most controversial calls of all time. But we can get into our second portion of this soccer portion of Inside the Game. The U.S. men's national team. A lot of individual players who continuing to make their mark overseas. It's kind of our, overseas overview, the way that we've been doing it on this show. But Ryan, we're talking about a lot of players playing a lot of significant minutes. You had some interesting stats coming into our show today. But what do you have for us?
Oh, sorry, I was going down a rabbit hole for a second.
Oh, about controversial calls?
Yeah, we got some good ones. We'll do it for tomorrow. We'll do it tomorrow because
All right, yeah,
there's some
we'll
good
have that one in
ones.
the can.
There's some good ones. Yeah, just real quick. Real Sociedad beat Barcelona 2-1, and people are like, "Why is this a big thing?" Well, the manager of Real Sociedad happens to be Pellegrino Matarazzo, and he is American, born in New Jersey. And if people who don't know who he is kind of grown up in a lot of soccer royalty in terms of his managerial philosophy and some of his mentors. And he's actually had a good start at Real Sociedad, 4 games unbeaten. He's won in the, I think, Copa del Rey, the knockouts. He won via a PK shootout, drew against Atletico Madrid, and beat Barcelona, obviously, and Real Sociedad is about mid-table now and trying to get back up into one of those European spots. But in terms of player-wise, it was relatively quiet in the goal and assist department, but I do have some numbers to talk to you about otherwise. But Haji Wright, back-to-back games with a goal. He scored yesterday as well against Leicester City. Patrick Ajiman from Little Rhodey, he scores a goal for Derby County against Preston North End. And then Ricardo Pepi breaks his arm this weekend, and he'll be out for a couple of months. But at the same time, we look at some of these injuries for the men's national team. We look at Tyler Adams. I forgot his name for a second. Yeah. Tyler Adams. You think of a Cameron Carter-Vickers, and now you look at a Ricardo Pepi. These injuries, if you're going to get injuries, they're not out a terrible long time, and they'll be back for the World Cup. There will be enough time for all 3 of those players, and you even think Pulisic against Australia. He was out, but he's back, obviously, in time. But the numbers that I want to talk to you, 12 players that have played this past weekend, 12 players, U.S. men's national team players, that are overseas. And this is just top flights. Obviously, Haji Wright and Haji Were championship, but this is top flight divisions all across Europe. The 12 players played 80-plus minutes, and Christian Pulisic wasn't even one of them. He played 73. So 12 players overseas that are Americans played 80-plus minutes across all of Europe's top divisions. That's pretty impressive in itself.
Yep, and that number continues to go up, and they continue to play more minutes. And again, the impact of those players continues to be more and more. We're not claiming to have individual superstars amongst some of the best in the world. Again, Christian Pulisic right now in Serie A, I would say is the face of that league, and I don't even think that's controversial to say when the man is in the running. Okay, well, whatever, screw him. But when you're in the lead for potentially winning a Golden Boot in that Italian league, I'm sorry, you are the face of that league. And again, my comparison is always when I look at like the sport of basketball, we are what like Australia is to basketball. We are what I wouldn't even say Serbia, I'd say Canada or somewhere else along the lines. Like, we're not really there as a nation in terms of winning a World Cup. We just don't have the depth and we don't have the identity. And that's the hard part. I realize that Mauricio Pochettino is trying to establish that, but you can't look at what Americans are doing in terms of minutes and how often they're on the pitch and the different contributions they're making and say that they don't belong, that they don't have a spot. Unlike one of those comments that we got under one of our videos saying the time that American soccer players are going to get their respect is when humanity goes extinct. I think that may be a little extreme, but again, that shows you, and I said this yesterday, the only way that you respond when you're guilty of doing something, aka when you're guilty of harboring these feelings against American players simply because they're from here, not because they play a certain way, not because they're not making an impact. The way that you respond to being pressed about that is by lashing out. And so all those people in the comment section that were lashing out, again, they were having an emotional reaction to something that we said, here's a mirror, take a look in it. And they don't, we don't like that too much. So let's rip into these guys. Let's try and take their page down. Let's have some sort of emotional outlash. Crazy.
If you were to report us, what would you even say? Like, we don't put up
hateful content.
Like, we don't put up anything bad. Like, that could actually hurt somebody or violate anybody. Like if you were to actually look at our page and be like, we're taking you down, like, they'd be like, for what? It doesn't make sense.
Exactly.
It doesn't make sense.
It doesn't. But looking forward, Haji Wright, great to see him back in a groove. He had cooled off a little bit in terms of the goal scoring, so it's nice to see him back adding 3 in consecutive games, that's pretty good. Ajiman, again, I think he's on the outside looking in terms of the World Cup, but it's good to see that he added one for Derby. Ricardo Pepi, that's a bad break. You talk about bubble players for this U.S. men's national team. I thought Pepi is certainly one of those players. So this could not have come at a worse time for Ricardo Pepi. It'll bring him back before the start
He'll
of the
be
World
back by
Cup.
March or
Obviously, he'll be
April.
back. Right. So it's not like he's completely out of the conversation, but it's tough. But the one point that I do want to talk about very quickly before we transition into our final segment here in our first hour, I don't want to look too far ahead. It's always ridiculous to me when the season just ends, specifically like in college football, and you see the way too early predictions for the following year, and who's going to end up going on to win a national championship. It's like, guys, like literally the dust just settled from this season. Like, can we give it a break? Like, can we breathe for a second? And we're not even at the World Cup yet, but I got a question for you, Ryan. When we look forward as to who might lead this U.S. men's national team past this World Cup, I have a sneaking suspicion. And again, it's just a suspicion. This is a gut feeling. But the older I get, the more I tend to trust my gut a little bit more. It's hard to imagine that Mauricio Pochettino is going to be here for much longer past the World Cup if he doesn't do really well and he doesn't want to re-up on continuing to coach this U.S. men's national team. The dream is to coach in the World Cup, and so he's going to do that. But we know he's eyeing the Premier League again. We know that there are certainly probably clubs who would love to see him back in the Premier League and would do anything they can to open up the pocketbooks to make that happen because he's had a lot of career success. Is Pellegrino Matarazzo someone we should be looking at for the head coach of the U.S. men's national team, maybe in the way future, if Poach doesn't do what he's supposed to do in 26?
Well, I think regardless if he somehow wins a World Cup, I think Pochettino's gone within the year. I think that I simply think because I look at a guy like Carlo Ancelotti at Brazil right now. I look at both of these managers. They've had success at the club level over in Europe, but I think they looked at these two opportunities and they said, you know what, for a couple years, I don't have to manage a team week in, week out. I just have to do it every couple months or once a month, this, and that. And then I get to do, if I'm Pochettino, I get to do cool media things like go to random sporting events in America and fall in love with a movie that Nate Wengler is also in love with. Like outside of that, like I think they just looked at this opportunity and said, you know what? I get a chance to manage in the World Cup for the first time ever. This is a dream for me. And Pochettino might be a little bit upset that it's not Argentina, that it's with the United States, not his in a foreign country. And Ancelotti, obviously, with Brazil, that's his country. But I think that they just saw the opportunity, said, I'm out of a job. U.S. is going to pay me handsomely for doing like 3/4 of the work that I normally have to do. I'm going to sit for a couple of years and just kind of look at the landscape of club soccer and eventually go back to it. Like he's eventually going to go back to the club level. And I don't, if you're a U.S. fan that doesn't like that, you've been kidding yourself this whole time. Like you are lying to yourself that Pochettino's going to be here for the long haul. To your point of Matarazzo, Matarazzo's been playing in the club game for quite some time. Bundesliga, now La Liga. I don't know his age, but I would say you do look at a player like, or not a player, a manager of his caliber at some point. So he's 48, so he's got some time in terms of that. So I think he's a manager that you look at for in the future. I thought Jesse Marsh was one of those managers, but obviously he's with Canada, and I imagine he'll be there for a long time. Sorry, TikTok disconnected for a second. Okay, we're back.
No, you're good.
But no, I think you're right. It's a good question. But no, I think Pochettino, to sum everything up here, sorry, a lot of things going on. Just to summarize some things up here, yes, I think this is a manager that you look for in a couple of years. But I think Pochettino, regardless of what he does at the World Cup, like he could go on a run, I think he will then choose to leave. If he doesn't make it out of the group, doesn't get out of the round of 32, I'm sure he's fired on the spot. But I don't think, regardless of what he does, I think he's gone within the calendar year of 2026. I think he's gone.
And I have been the first, and you can ask JT about this when he was on the show for the first 200. I was always one that was adamant in trying to say, you know what, we got to give Poach time. Even after the embarrassments that we saw, we got to give him time to figure it out. We got to give him time to really kind of immerse himself in figuring out who his best options are. And again, trying to create that identity on a national level, which we lack in the United States. It's just something we just simply don't have. And again, that makes it harder for us to really succeed or to find a common thread on the national level. But that's the other thing, is everything that he says in terms of trying to Americanize himself and really indulge himself in the American experience, I take with a grain of salt. I don't really like completely buy into everything that he says, that in terms of, maybe he does love the movie Miracle. Does that mean he's here for the long haul? Probably not. He went on College Game Day. I'm sure he had a great time at Ohio State. Not all
Shitty
of us,
place to
but I'm
go.
sure, yeah, terrible. Yeah, bad choice on his end. But anyways, he doesn't know any better, so I'll give him a pass on this one. But again, does that mean that he's in the long haul? He's in for the long haul for the United States? No. And this is the thing that I will agree with JT, what he used to say in this regard. He argued that the only way that the U.S. is only going to be able to make a run to a World Cup final or come close to winning a World Cup final, and we don't even have to talk about that. We can talk about the Olympics too, winning a gold medal, whatever it is. You need a manager who is from the United States. But I think that's simplifying it. I think that's just one level of it. I think the deeper level to it, if we want to explain that even further, we need a coach that is from North America, preferably the United States, but someone that could maybe be with this team for more than just one run or one stretch of time. I get it. USA Soccer wants someone who's going to succeed right now. And I'm not going to throw Mauricio Pochettino under the bus or sell him short, because we haven't played a World Cup game yet, right? If my man ends up going out and making a quarterfinal, semifinal, gets the U.S. to the finals, because hell froze over. I mean, if Indiana can win a national championship, I'm sure that the U.S. men's national team can make a run. But
Yeah, but we won't have like 40-year-olds playing for us that are over the age.
Yeah, well, that's true. But imagine the vacuum, minus Tim Ream, but imagine the vacuum that will create if he does succeed to that level and then he goes back to the Premier League. Like that the mess that can create for USA Soccer, it almost makes you wonder, was it all worth it? Because at that point, it's not like we got to be less talented.
If you make a run, 100% it's worth it.
Yeah, okay. We haven't
been to the semis since the 30s. I mean, if he somehow got to that and left, who cares?
And I know it in the tournament itself is going to make an impact. Like that's even if we don't make some sort of miraculous run, the tournament itself is going to help out American soccer immensely. And we've seen this arms race around, whether it be the USL, whether it be Major League Soccer, leading up to the 2026 World Cup, because the conversation around the sport is beginning to reach a fevered pitch. We're starting to see more people participate in those conversations. And I'm sure it would make a great impact. But again, it just seems like you're starting over again if he makes a run like that, and then the next day he's like, I'm going back to the Premier League. I'm out of here.
I'll say this. If he leaves, but if he makes a run, it does not matter. It doesn't matter, because you made a run. You haven't been to the quarter since 2002. You haven't been in the semis since the damn 30s. You've never even been in the final. So if that's the point, if that's the case, it doesn't really matter, because I also think if you're U.S. Soccer, I also don't think that they hired him to be here for 2 World Cup cycles. I don't think they did that. I think they did this simply because they were in a mess. What's his name? Berhalter. Sorry, I forgot his name. Berhalter. I don't even know why he hired him back in the first place. He had a dumpster fire of a Copa America. I just don't think that. I think they hired him so they didn't have another mess like they did in Copa America. That's simply what all this was. I'm sure they had a conversation of, well, you're not going to be here long, but we're going to hire you for this because we just don't want a mess. I think that's all of this is. All this is so you don't get embarrassed on home soil. But back to your other point, to your and John's points of you need a North American manager, I'm going to disagree with you guys, because what is U.S. Soccer's identity at the moment? Like, if we talk about it, what is our identity?
Yeah, we don't
We
have
don't
one.
have one. So what's the point of having a North American manager if we don't even have an identity? There's no point. Our greatest strength is also our greatest weakness, because our greatest strength is we don't have an identity, so teams don't know the way that we're going to play. In terms of, like, as a country, we do not have a soccer identity. We have people that are obsessed with playing out of the back. We have people that are obsessed with just booting it long. We have people that are obsessed with just athleticism, and you go on your own and play iso ball, basically. So there's that. And then we have the disagreements on pay-to-play pro rally. It's a whole mess. But at the same time, we don't have an identity. So as a team and as a country, we don't know what we're going to get. So to the point of we don't have an identity, who gives a shit where this manager's from? Who gives a shit? Because we don't have one. If he we look at basketball, baseball, football, there's identities there because we created the damn thing. Mm-hmm. Soccer, we didn't create the thing, and then we didn't even touch the sport for like 30, 40 years until the 90s, and all of a sudden we're like, hey, let's play the game of soccer. Let's see what happens. Let's make a crack at it. And we've only been really actively playing this sport for like 30 years. Like, obviously there's been World Cup runs. Obviously there's been national teams. Like, I'm not saying there is, but it feels like we didn't give a shit for like 30 years until after the World Cup. It felt like,
not to that extent. I mean, there
like,
were little pop-up pro leagues all over the place, but it wasn't what it was. To create something like Major League Soccer, really, that was, if you want to bookmark a starting point, that in my mind is exactly it, especially because leading up to, I mean, they had like a 50-year drought where they didn't make the World Cup or something. It's something crazy. So, let's not act like there's always been a culture. Yeah, there's always been a culture of, I'm sure people are playing. And again, you mentioned it, like, diversity is our biggest strength, but it's also can be something that at least holds us back from a team identity perspective. Very quickly, let's take one more break. I want to continue this conversation on the other side, but let's step aside one more time before we finish up this conversation and we get to all sports in hour 2 here on Inside the Game.
Experience the thrill that came like never before with NSN's Game Rewind.
Dive into full match commentaries enhanced with cutting-edge dynamic graphics,
letting you relive the highs and lows of your favorite matches in astonishing detail.
Whether it's a championship win or a legendary play,
NSN Game Rewind bridges the past and future with a broadcast experience designed to captivate.
Call 586-304-4405
and start watching today.
Back live on Inside the Game, episode 212 here on the National Soccer Network. Got some new comments here today from some people just tuning in. Coach, we appreciate your tutelage.
And
anybody else who's watching here this morning. He did drop us a follow.
Like I said, we got to hit 2,000 before the World Cup. Can we hit 2,000 followers on TikTok before the World Cup? Because once the World Cup gets going, Nate, John, and I probably won't sleep for like a whole month. Just trying to. And you got baseball season in there, so you're going to be even double cramped. I guess. So, it's gonna be gonna be a fun summer.
Yep, it's gonna be all of that and then some.
But
we're talking a little bit.
There's no point of playing baseball this year. So, I mean, just watch the World Cup, guys. Just saying.
Minor league baseball, though, there's always a point to play minor league baseball, man. Even if it's just to come out to see your good friends, Bluey and Bingo, or like there's this guy that comes out to our ballpark. It's called Tyler's Amazing Balancing Act. Have you ever seen this guy?
No.
So this is something you might have to Google and show the folks. I don't know if you have screen sharing capabilities, but Tyler.
We can do it. We can do it.
Okay. All right.
We'll
but
show
Tyler.
we'll show it at the end.
We'll show it at the end.
You
All
said
right.
Tyler's Amazing Balancing Act?
Balancing Act. He will go around the stadium and he will have people give him objects to balance on his face. Now, I don't know how he discovered this trick, but he balances wheelbarrows on his face, ladders on his face, chairs, baseball bats. There's literally this pole that he uses that is like 10 feet long, and he will balance it on his face, and he'll dance as he's doing it. It's crazy.
I see the wheelbarrow one on Fort Wayne Tin Caps.
Yep.
Yeah, no, we'll get to that one for sure. At the end of the show, we'll get to it.
Yeah, he'll drop in anyways, your local Home Depot and spend like $1 million and then return all of it once he's done. So, if you're a Home Depot, you got to get Tyler's Amazing Balancing Act to come to your town. But wrapping up our conversation here on the U.S. men's national team and everything leading up to the 26 World Cup. Again, full coverage here on the National Soccer Network. We're going to be talking about it. Our projected 11 coming up on Friday. Ryan and I will put together who we think the best 11 would be. It's not the first time we've done it, but I believe our lists have changed and have gone through ebbs and flows throughout the course of what we've seen, obviously leading up to the international friendlies here in the new year. But our big focus, our big conversation going into break, the lack of identity for the U.S. men's national team. The other thing that I wanted to fit in before we transition, Ryan, I can't blame American soccer. And this is the thing when we talk about, we need an American to lead this group. That's a decision that is a long-term decision for USA Soccer. That is a decision that down the road, they're like, hey, okay, we're comfortable now with the collection of players we have, with where we are as a soccer-playing nation, to where we can bring someone in who will be here for the long run. I think of Emma Hayes. Emma Hayes is not going anywhere in the U.S. women's national team, right? They brought her in for the long run.
She'll leave and she won't.
That she will, and maybe that'll be after the World Cup if she ends up winning a World Cup. But still, this is years down the line. It's not coming up until 2027. Pochettino was a win-now decision. And so if they don't win now, again, we're playing the hypothetical game going into the World Cup. If they fall flat on their face, it might be time to start investigating someone like Pellegrino Matarazzo or someone who's from the United States that is willing to be with this program and with this team for a long time. Now, on the other side of that, if he ends up winning and doing what he's supposed to do at the World Cup, then you're right. I'm completely with you that there is no – if he does his job in the World Cup, he's done his job.
He's
anything else outside of that. I know. I agree. 100%.
Once we get knocked out of the World Cup, because we ain't winning the whole thing, once we get knocked out, I bet you because now the season will start, so I bet you he'll get like a September window. But the moment that those coaches start to get fired in the first month or two of the European season, then he's gonna go. Like we're gonna see him go October-ish. I think October, November, that time frame. And again, they knew what they were signing up for. Like it doesn't matter. I mean, we're talking about where they didn't make the World Cup. So 1930, they make the third place game. That's our best thing ever. Our best 1930 was our best placement ever. We finished third. Round of 16 and 34, 38. We didn't go to it. 1950 group stage, and then from 1954 all the way to 1986, we did not make the World Cup. 1990 was our first stint back. We made that all the way back into 2014, missed in 2018, and then 2022, 2026, we obviously are in it. But we didn't take soccer seriously during that whole time stretch. Yeah. You know who's taking stuff serious, Nate, during that time stretch? The goddamn Detroit Lions.
Yeah.
They're the kings of the 50s.
Yeah.
That's what they were doing.
I had an old coworker once upon a time. His name was Tom. I'll never forget this guy. I mean, he was a dinosaur. Cool guy, but he was a dinosaur. I never really asked him how old he was, but I mean, this was at the butcher shop, and he could handle the knives by himself, and he didn't hurt himself, so that's good. He knew what he was doing. But it's like he was always like, I'm surprised the Lions are so bad. I'm like, why are you surprised that the Lions are bad, dude? Like, you've been under a rock the last 30, 40 years? He's like, well, they were really good in the 50s. Okay, well, what does that have anything to do with 2022? What?
Yeah, man.
The 50s?
They're good.
Yes, Tom. There have been a few years that have passed since the 50s.
I
a few different coaches.
I hope someone that watched what World Cup did I say that was? The 1930 World Cup, and is somehow frozen time, comes back by 2026, comes back before the World Cup, and is like, man, I'm surprised the U.S. isn't good in the World Cup. Like, huh? Well, I watched the 1930 World Cup, and I was like, man, they're a good nation.
Yeah. Yeah, before World War II, man, they were doing
some
numbers,
things.
Man. Yeah. And then, the war happens, and all of a sudden it's like, off a cliff.
But
what happened?
I'll say this before, obviously we got a couple minutes before we get into, and we're talking about a lot of coaches in terms of the NFL in football, and college football too. But if I'm looking at this, if I'm looking at the World Cup, because obviously that's where you make your money, is the World Cup.
Yep.
I don't care about Gold Cups anymore. Copa America, yes, I'll put stock into that. But the Copa America doesn't happen as often as it should. Like, honestly, we should just get rid of the Gold Cup and make the Copa America with the U.S. or North America, South America all the time. That's just my personal opinion. But with the World Cup, that's the World Cup and Copa America, the two things that I actually truly care about in terms of the U.S. and the growth. And I think there's two years where I really think the U.S. are kind of like the years where U.S. soccer has changed a little bit. Obviously, us hosting the World Cup in '94, I think that jump started people like, what's this soccer sport? People start playing it. We created a league. People start following it. But then I think of 2018. I think from 1994, again, I could be completely wrong in all this sense. I haven't really done a ton of research on it, but just based on looking at results and the players, 94 to 2014, I felt like we were doing it the American way. A lot of our players were domestic. A lot of our players played in the MLS. Yeah, there was a couple players that went overseas. Alexi Lalas went overseas. Clint Dempsey, Landon Donovan. Like, there were players that went overseas. I'm not saying that they didn't. But then in 2018, we didn't qualify. We did it the American way. All of our players were homegrown. All of our players were playing in the MLS outside of Pulisic, I think. Then all of a sudden, what have you seen after 2018? What have you seen? We just talked about it. We just showed it up on your screen. Look at all this. All these players that are going overseas, and this is just a little look. This isn't of what actually happened. I'd even put 12 players playing 80-plus minutes in the top-flight divisions overseas. So I would say this. This is my timeline, the Ryan Glinsky timeline of U.S. soccer. We didn't give a shit from 1950 to 1990. For 40 years, we didn't care because the Detroit Lions were dominating. Then, 1994, that's what turned the lights on. That's what got everything going. 2018, that's where we woke up and realized we can't do it here. We can't do it like we traditionally do in all of our other sports. We got to go overseas. We got to these players. Yeah, we'll start them up here. Obviously, as young kids, they'll start up. They get but 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, that age. You got to go overseas. You got to go compete in Champions Leagues. You got to go compete in the Prem. You got to go compete in La Liga. Oh, but at the same time, we're going to have a couple managers that are going to go over there and manage a little bit. Pellegrino Matarazzo. Jesse Marsh was over at Leeds for a little bit. And Salzburg, RB Salzburg. So 2018, we woke up. 1994, the lights were turned on. 2026 could be another year where we look back and it's like, damn, what happened? But no, that's the Ryan Glinsky U.S. men's national team timeline.
And you're 100% correct. And I imagine we need to do it the American way mentality is not new. Kind of like you explained.
Really? You don't think so?
No. And I don't think that is going to help us win. Truth is, we need to learn how they play the game. And we need to continue to learn how they play the game and immerse ourselves in that. Because if we want to talk about hockey, and again, how they did it, yeah, we can, this is all rah-rah USA, red, white, and blue, but what people don't realize is that we played the way that they played, and that's how we were able to beat them. And that really kind of led to the birth of the identity of American hockey and Canadian hockey, which is we're going to beat the hell out of you. That's how we play. That's how the Russians played. We adopted it from them, and we used it to our advantage.
Could we give during the Olympics, we got to, at least once a show, we got to give an update on what the U.S. Olympic hockey, men's and women's hockey.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Especially after.
By the way, the other day I gave a shout out to the U.S. women's. That was the U18 team that went undefeated to win
not the senior team.
To win a gold medal. No, not the senior team. So my bad on that one.
I'll add this obviously before we transition things here. But 2014 there was a conversation, and after 2014 it was. So how do we eventually start beating the Belgiums of the world? How do we start beating the Colombias? How do we start beating the Brazils? How do we get into that next tier? And then it just went sucked because we didn't even qualify for it. Then we looked at 2022. It skyrocketed. People will say, it was around a 16. It's a traditional U.S. tournament. But the way that it looked a little bit different. I'm not England competed a little bit. Wales, a team that you should beat, they should have beat, and they, I would say, played really well. Iran, a team that you should beat, played well. The Netherlands, Pulisic scores that goal in the opening 2 minutes, everything changes. So I would say after 2018, I feel like we've really opened up our eyes. How big will 2026 have in terms of an impact? I don't know, but I would say it's got to be in the positive direction because I feel like what it's going to do, the 2026, again, we'll have a whole different discussion on this. Honestly, maybe tomorrow if we really want to, unless more AFCON crazy shit goes on. But in 2026, you look at it, you probably got to think people like me, or not people like me, I should say, kids that are younger than me will probably have their eyes open to the game of soccer and want to at least give it a shot, at least want to try to play.
Absolutely.
I think coaching, you'll see a lot of youth clubs start to branch out or sprout up, or maybe clubs that already exist start having satellite teams all around the place. So I think it's going to be a really good thing. I think we're going to see a lot of growth in the game of soccer. If it doesn't, then I think we should just quit the sport. We have it in our backyard. It should be growing.
And unless you're Dana White, seeing kids get involved with soccer is a good thing. That's a sign of growth. Coming up next here on Inside the Game, we got all sports on the other end. This is episode 212.
Are you ready to create unforgettable moments for your audience? NSN offers professional live streaming and full broadcast services tailored to your needs.
From high-quality production to exceptional coverage,
we ensure your game or event becomes a spectacle to remember. Book your next game with us today.
Call 586-304-4405 to schedule your broadcast.
And let NSN bring the action to life like never before. Are you ready to create unforgettable moments for your audience? NSN offers professional live streaming and full broadcast services tailored to your needs.
From high-quality production to exceptional coverage,
We ensure your game or event becomes a spectacle to remember. Book your next game with us today
call 586-304-4405 to schedule your broadcast.
and let NSN bring the action to life like never before.
Sports Nation, what's up? Welcome back. Nate Wangler alongside Ryan Glinsky, episode 212 of Inside the Game. Getting into our all sports section of the show here today. Ryan, I know we've been talking a lot about coaching moves around the National Football League. Obviously, the Lions hiring a new offensive coordinator the other day. But one of those prime targets that we thought maybe the Lions were going to go after made his move, or at least is in the middle of working out a contract. That's Mike McDaniel, who could be heading to the Chargers. And you actually worked it into our prep sheet here that this annoys you as a Lions fan. And in multiple different exchanges with people I know in and around the Detroit sports scene, the idea was that maybe this was who the Lions were going to go after. Maybe this what should be the prime target for this team, given that they need you go from a generational talent like Ben Johnson. It's really hard for me to imagine that you would want anything less in your next coordinator. But I think the Lions organization right now is a little scarred from losing Ben Johnson once upon a time, and I think that might have led to their decision to go out and not get someone like Mike McDaniel. What frustrates you the most about this from a Lions fan perspective?
First off, Adam Schefter says Mike McDaniel is expected to become the OC at the Chargers, barring a change of heart. He has told every team that they are out, as the Chargers clearly wanted him. This pisses me off. This just pisses me off because one thing. Excuse me. We talked about fit, and you're telling me Dan Campbell and the Lions fit and the Lions organization is trying to tell me and the fans that Mike McDaniel was not a good fit with the Lions. And very well, there could be something. But you're telling me he's going to fit in with Jim Harbaugh? But Mike McDaniel's going to fit with Jim Harbaugh. What? Like, Jim Harbaugh, as much as the guy has brought me a lot of joy and pain over the years, he's brought me a lot of joy at the end, more pain in the beginning, but a lot of joy at the end. Harbaugh looks like he'd be a little difficult to work with, especially on the offensive side of the ball. We like, Nate, we looked at from 2015 to 2018, it was really a Jim Harbaugh offense, and it was so hard for him to even truly get an offensive coordinator until Josh Gaddis got there. And did it really work? Yeah, it doesn't really know. But then Gaddis is there from 19 to 2021. And then Sharon Moore is the offensive coordinator from 2022. And truly, he didn't really do anything because look at what happened afterwards. The offense looked like shit when he was the head coach. So did Sharon really do anything in terms of the offense? Probably not. But you're telling me Mike McDaniel's going to fit in with Jim Harbaugh? Like, he looks like Dan Campbell, or look on the outside looking in, Dan Campbell would actually work a lot, or would fit in a lot better than with Jim Harbaugh. And then number two, the other thing that pisses me off is the Lions spent a ton of money on wide receivers. Amon-Ra St. Brown, massive extension. J-Mo, massive extension. Isaac Tesla, you used 3 damn third-round picks for a guy you didn't actually have to do that for, and a guy you don't even use. You just use him to make crazy red zone catches. That's all you use him for. You use a ton of draft capital and resources and money to put into your wide receiving room. And then you hired the guy who looks like he could be a baby villain who's going to use the tight ends more. But Mike McDaniel uses the wide receivers a lot more, but you use a ton of money on the wide receivers. This shit makes no sense. Like, this is what annoys me, is the fact that it wasn't a good fit, but he's a good fit with Harbaugh, and you use so much money on wide receivers and you hired an OC that's going to use tight ends. Like, are we going to draft a tight end in the second round this year? I don't know. It just pisses me off. I'm sorry.
They made the decision. You know, there's a saying out there that scared money don't make money, and that's exactly where we are with the Lions right now. I know we pointed out a couple of things yesterday about Drew Petzing and his history with the Arizona Cardinals and his, the efficient running game, top 10 most efficient running game in the last handful of years. But when Dan Campbell was interviewed about making the decision to bring in someone like Drew Petzing, the biggest talking point from the Lions and some of the dignitaries in that front office was that we want someone who's going to be here for a while. We want someone who's dedicated to the mission, who's going to go out and want to win a Super Bowl with us, who's not going to leave us after we make our deepest run since, I don't know, whenever, like probably in franchise history, right? So we want someone who's going to stick around. But you know what? That's making decisions because you're scared. It's making the safe decision. It's no different than someone with baggage, and just kind of settling in a relationship. Yeah, you settled for that person because you realize that, hey, you want to mitigate damage. You don't want to put yourself in a spot to where you could get hurt again, right? And this is where the Lions are right now. They feel like they were kind of left in the dust by Ben Johnson, who I still believe is the best offensive mind in the league. And so now, because they're scared and they're skittish, they're going to make decisions, and they're going to say, hey, that we want someone who's going to be here for the long haul. I'm sorry. I thought we were on this win-now train. It's not. It shouldn't be the goal. I thought we were on this win-now train. I thought the attitude was we need to go out and get someone who can win right now. You know who can win right now as an offensive coordinator in Detroit? Mike McDaniel can win right now. We went out and we made the safe choice. We didn't make the right choice. And that's the thing that in my mind is so ridiculous. And mind you, this is coming from the same guy who's talking about where we're going to bite off kneecaps and we're going to fight you for every inch and we're going to go for 4th and 1, although it's stupid and we shouldn't, but hey, that's our identity, right? This is the same guy that boasts about how we're going to do, he did, but we're going to do everything and anything we can to go out and win and put this franchise on the map and potentially bring home a Super Bowl. You have more weapons at your disposal than what Mike McDaniel had in a lot of his seasons in Miami. I would take Jared Goff over Tua Tagovailoa 99 times out of 100. That's just the reality.
Would you take J-Mo and Amon-Ra over Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle?
That's a toss-up for me.
I would still just go Amon-Ra and J-Mo.
I would say yes.
This is,
but it's a toss-up.
It's not a homer thing, but I just don't like Tyreek Hill and all the distractions he has off the field. That's just me personally. Yeah. That's just a personal thing.
You could say the same thing about J-Mo, I suppose.
Oh, yeah,
J-Mo's created a lot of distractions outside of the field. But either way,
that's true.
One of the more high-powered young minds in the National Football League, one of the more ingenuitive minds that the NFL has to offer on the offensive side of the ball, and your decision is, no, we're not going to do that because we know what happens a couple of years down the line. He's going to end up leaving us. That is again, that's being scared, and that's making these decisions because you're scared.
I'm going to put something up on the screen real quick, and you let me know because it smells like something the last calendar year or so.
I am ready.
Are we back to SOL? We back to the same old lines? Because a lot of
We're
these
getting there.
moves recently have been a lot of, it's our guys. We got it. Like Kelvin Shepard, defensive coordinator. We're going to promote within. We're going to get Johnny Moe back. He can't call plays. The only thing that I like Pet Singh, like doing a deeper dive. I think he's fine. But when Mike McDaniel's on the table, I'm taking him. I'm taking the best that there is. And it just seems like because he wasn't a right fit. But you're telling me Harbaugh's a good fit?
Brad Holmes, being the smartest man in the room, is going to single-handedly destroy this Lions franchise. And to those of you who jumped on the bandwagon a few years ago, get ready to learn irrelevancy again. You're going to go through it like the rest of us did for our entire life leading up to this point, because we like to smell our own you-know-what. And that's exactly what this reeks of. We're smelling our you-know-what. We didn't go get the best option available. We got our guy, quote unquote. And listen, if Dan Campbell had his hand in making this decision, I need Lions fans to really kind of take a step back and look at themselves in the mirror and go, you know what? It's okay to criticize Dan Campbell. Listen, I know he's a big teddy bear. I know he cries. I know he's a real personable guy, and he's bought into the Detroit experience, and he was on that 0-16 team. My guy has seen what the bottom of the barrel looks like in Detroit. But if he has his hand in making these decisions right now, listen, it's okay to criticize a guy who goes on fourth down when it's idiotic to do so and costs his team the game. It's okay to go after the guy who makes bold, stupid decisions on the football field a lot of times that cost us a lot of games this year. And listen, I get it, right? If you're all caught up,
we won.
Right.
The Bears,
and I
we
mean,
need to win it.
And if you're going to be a rah-rah guy, you may as well know a little bit more ball, and you may as well be able to actually field a team that can go win a Super Bowl, because you know who I think of in that same vein? Pete Carroll. But the only difference is between Pete Carroll's rah-rah and Dan Campbell's rah-rah is Pete Carroll actually won Super Bowls. Pete Carroll actually should have won 2. Absolutely. Hand the damn ball off. He would have won 2 Super Bowls. But Dan Campbell is not Pete Carroll. And we're going to find this out very quickly in the coming years if we're not willing to kind of step outside of what I think Brad Holmes is stuck in right now, which is in the sand, thinking that he knows better than the rest of the room does.
There's a lot of GMs in this town that think they're the smartest guy in the room. And I think Trajan Langdon is the only exception. And if I had to look at if I had to look at all 4 teams and say who's the closest to winning a championship, it's the Pistons. Like, again, they just beat the Celtics.
What about Stevie Y and the Wings?
Not to win right now. I
so?
still don't believe. I got to see them at least do something in the playoffs first. Like, I know at least the Pistons had a very tough first playoff experience, and now that they're just growing, and now they're the number 1 team in the East. Red Wings, I haven't seen them in the playoffs yet. I don't even remember the last time I've seen them in the playoffs. I think they played the Bruins, and they lost. Anyway, side note, we look at all 4 franchises. The Pistons, who honestly I don't even know if Tom Gores even knows that the Pistons are his own team at this point. He might just
love
be
watching
drunk.
Interviews with that guy.
he might be drunk in LA right now for all I know. But
Mr.
Trajan
Real
Langdon
Estate.
doing a good. He's doing his thing. They don't bring back, like, every single player is not. Tobias is the only exception because he was here previously. That's the only exception, and he could be a very valuable trade piece if they want to. They also add at the deadline. Look at last year, Dennis Schroeder. They needed a ball handler. Guess what? They went and got one, and now they still have a trade exception with Dennis Schroeder that they can use later on. We look at the Red Wings. Never does anything at the deadline. The pro player evaluation sucks in terms of all their signings. John Gibson being an exception. But he drafts relatively well, I would say. But it takes a lot longer, and it gets a little bit impatient with some of the fans. But Stevie Y doesn't go out, make trades, do any of that fun stuff. We're just going to stay with our guys. Wait till the kids. Scott Harris, on the other hand.
Let the kids play.
Have the Tigers done anything in this offseason? Like, has anything happened outside of Gleyber Torres, obviously, except doing what 99% of players are going to do and accept that extension to come back by his player option to come back? No. Like, have they really done anything? It's just wait till the kids. Let's stay with our guys. We gave Alex Cobb $15 million for crying out loud. I don't even think Nate even got a chance to broadcast him this year because he just was in the bullpen doing bullpen sessions this whole time. I don't even know if Nate. Did you even get a chance to broadcast?
Well,
Alex
he
Cobb?
would do the first couple of innings. He would never go beyond the third inning. So no, I didn't get an Alex Cobb because my play-by-play was in the fourth. So I did some color stuff for him, but
damn, Nate's the broadcaster,
Bush League.
and he didn't even get to say Alex Cobb's name and be like, "Here's the pitch
God.
from Cobb." They didn't even get to say that. God, but we're gonna give him $15 million.
Old
Like,
grandpa
everyone in
hips
this-
over there.
But back to the Lions point here. We're getting high on our own supply. We won the division for the first time, went 12-5, magical season, choked in the NFC Championship game. All right, young squad. We win 15 games, win the division again. Number 1 seed, get killed. I know the defense was just dead, and Jared Goff didn't have a good game. But you still have your core pieces back. You lose Ragnow. You lose Zeitler. All right, we got to address something here. Let's not draft random dudes from Canada as project players who ain't even ready in year 3, Manu. Let's not spend 3 third-rounders on Isaac Tesla. Let's not do that. All right? We lost all of our coordinators. And at the same time, if your goal as a coordinator is to stay in the same spot, and, unless you became a head coach at some point down the line, and you didn't like it, you failed at it, but now, you know what, I'm going to stay as a coordinator. But if you've never been a head coach at one point in your life and you want to stay as an offense coordinator, defense coordinator, what's your goal? Like, what's your goal in life? You eventually get into coaching at some point to become the top dog. As broadcasters, our point is to become the top dog at some point. It's not to just sit and do nothing that no one sees us for all these years. No. Eventually you want to get you're sitting right now you're sitting in your 9-to-5 job right now, and you're sitting as one of the bottom people. Are you just wanting to sit at the bottom people? No, eventually you want to become a manager, supervisor, CEO, CFO, I don't even know. At some point you want to have goals and get to it. But if we're hiring a coordinator to simply be here because he wants to be here for 5 years and develop and everything, then Petsing, you got some things to decide. And if you're Dan Campbell and you're Brad Holmes and we want a guy here for the long term, that's not the point of coordinators. Coordinators are not there for the long term. Do they not understand that?
You wonder why he didn't get a head coaching job? You wonder why he probably didn't get a head coaching job? Petsing.
Because he looks weird?
Well, and they didn't win.
Yeah. I didn't know the Cardinals were playoff contenders time and time again.
You don't live life scared that something bad is going to happen around the corner. You accept it. Like, there's a part of you that's like, something bad may happen here. Whether it be in the relationship you're in, whether it be with the company that you choose to work with, there is always danger around the corner. But making the safe option when it comes to finding a coordinator when you're trying to get back to that point to where you could maybe potentially go win a Super Bowl is not going to get you there. And there is always going to be someone. If he comes into Detroit and we go out and we win 13, 14 games and we look like world beaters and we got, the best running game in the league, and we got all these other things and our offense is cooking, you don't think someone's going to come in and offer him more money than what we're offering him right now? You don't think there's another NFL organization that's going to look at him and go, hey, we want you to be our head coach. We want you to be our guy.
Good means you're going to lose coaches. Like,
yes.
Do people not realize that? Like, look at, Michigan, for example. 1 year, Mike McDonald changes the whole defense around. Guess what? Leaves. Back to the NFL in 1 year. Minter, 2 great years. Leaves, goes to the NFL. All granted, Harbaugh takes the whole damn staff with him anyway. But now he's getting interviewed to be an NFL head coach. Harbaugh's going to lose his defensive coordinator and Jesse Minter because he's going to be a head coach in the NFL. That's up to him to decide. But every single head coaching vacancy, he has an interview at least scheduled. Just because you're scared that you're going to lose Ben Johnson again, who, mind you, he chose to come back for that 15-2 year. Like, people don't realize that he chose to come back for that 15-2 year, right? And also, I forgot to say, by the way, a lot of these all sports clips, not soccer related. We do have a new TikTok account, Premier Media Group. Make sure Premier Media GRP on TikTok. Make sure you drop a follow on that. We'll be posting all of our other stuff there. I forgot to mention. I've been meaning to mention that, but we got into a Lions tangent.
Yeah.
But no,
Well, and we'll be retweeting a lot of that. Well, not retweeting. Sorry, reposting a lot of that stuff from our NSN page and our other stuff. So if you see it, make sure you just click on it, give it a follow. But yeah, trying to diversify that. But finish up your thought before we take our break.
It's
an
just
hour or two.
Like we're so close, and it just steps back, and it's stuff that could be. It feels a little self-inflicted, and that's not the way because there's still really good NFL players on this roster, like Goff, Amon-Ra, J-Mo, Jack Campbell, but everything feels self-inflicted.
We're on the verge of squandering it.
You're telling me you just knew about Ragnow retiring. You're telling me he randomly got up one random day in July. He was like, "Yeah, I'm retiring." You're telling me he had a broken throat during the Bucks, like he couldn't walk during the Bucks game. You know what? Going into the 2025 draft, let's see here. Let's not draft a corner that hasn't played an NFL snap for us. Let's not draft a guy from Canada that we don't know about. Let's draft a damn center or an inside or a guard that could eventually go into center. Let's give him a year. Let him develop a little bit under Frank. Yeah. And then Frank, you know what? Right when you're gone, he's got at least a little bit under his belt. And we're not putting Graham Glasgow. You're telling me that? And then all of a sudden, we're just going to hire a guy as a coordinator, offensive coordinator. We have a damn Lamborghini at offense. And we're just letting a 15-year-old drive it. When we could have had the 40-year-old that has drove Lamborghinis for 20-plus years, 10-plus years, drive that thing. No, we're having a kid with a new license try to drive a Lamborghini. Ain't going to go well.
Yeah. Stop drafting guys from Canada. Unless you're Stevie Y, keep drafting guys from Canada. Those guys are pretty good. Yeah, at that old hockey game. But let's take a step aside and we come back here on Inside the Game. We're going to talk about a little controversy going on. We love controversy on this show. Darian Menza bringing up a lawsuit against Duke. Also, Brendan Sorsby owes $1 million back to Cincinnati after transferring. Should smaller schools get into the legal side of this a little bit more to hold people accountable, specifically players accountable for just up and leaving whenever they want to? Getting messy in the college game. We'll talk about that more on the other side here on episode 212.
The Flint City Bucks are Michigan's top soccer franchise with 4 national championships, 9 conference titles, and 15 Great Lakes Division titles. They have produced 107 players for Major League Soccer, and they focus on attracting top talent and shaping soccer's future. Michigan Bucks Academy joins MLS Next new competition tier starting in September of 2025. This offers elevated levels of play and flexibility for high school participation. The Academy will provide premier development, high-performance training, and exposure to scouts through regional tournaments and MLS Next events. For more information on tryouts, training programs, and key updates as we prepare for our first season in MLS Next new tier, visit MichiganBucksAcademy.com.
I'm sorry. I thought there was another commercial.
Yeah, me too. I love that slow fade back into just our faces, just like looking at the camera.
I thought that there was another commercial. Oh well.
Hey, welcome back. Hey, episode 212. We're talking again. Okay, I wasn't ready. Here we go. Just talking about the Lions offensive coordinator, and obviously Mike McDaniel going elsewhere. Interesting conversation. Again, if you want to get involved in the conversation, I know our live viewers on the show continue to go up. There's one way of doing that. Follow us live on the show. We're live on TikTok pretty much every single day, but leave your comments. We would love to get to them. But yeah, crazy story with the Lions not going that direction, but an even crazier story emerging. Ryan, I stood up on my soapbox. I believe it was episode 1, right, of season 2, coming back from break. And I talked about how NIL, transfer portal, has created a culture and an environment in college sports where it is not even, it is not down the middle. And a lot of the majority of the comments that came in are saying, hey, it's never been fair. It's never been equal. You know, right? We've always had programs with bigger alumni bases and more money to back them. I mean, kids would come from neighborhoods, you know, that were not great. They would go to these schools and they'd come back 40 pounds heavier driving a brand new car with jewelry on. It's like, okay, well, how did you manage to do all of that? I know that you're getting like free school. How did you go to all this other stuff? So it's never in that vein. It's never been fair. But we've taken that, again, to a new level with the NCAA, again, promoting some of these things and allowing some of these things. And more so, it's not even necessarily the money anymore, Ryan. I know that money is the driving component of all this. The transfer portal, again, has been the big issue, and it's given players an opportunity to just up and leave whenever they want to. And that's led to a little bit of a debacle when it comes to Duke. So is this a two-parted story, or is this all connected?
It's just two different situations. One that I think is handled the proper way, and another lawsuit in terms of Darian Mensah. So, look, during the playoff run, I think it was after the Ole Miss game, Miami was expected to have Darian Mensah, the Duke quarterback, hit the transfer portal all of a sudden, and people are like, what is going on here? Like, again, he had a pretty good year for Duke, obviously the ACC champs, but there's apparently a lawsuit going on about him hitting the transfer portal. He signed, I guess, a contract with Duke to stay. And again, we talked about tampering and all that fun stuff. It seems like Miami did tamper. Duke has been saying that this breaches their rules and their contract details. Duke has placed a temporary restraint on Mensah so he does not go into the portal and receive no more NIL deals. Mensah's agent says that Duke can't stop a player from going into the portal, but again, just another mess about any of this stuff. But schools do have contracts and rules with these people, or with these players, excuse me. And, of course, we thought of the DeMond Williams situation, but that was handled relatively quickly before he hit LSU. But then this one is the way that I think schools should handle it, and especially some of the smaller schools here. If you just give me 1 second, where's that? Right here. Yeah. This is Brendan Sorsby of Cincinnati, who is now at Texas Tech. And again, there's no issues with this at all. It's all been paid. But Brendan Sorsby owed Cincinnati $1 million 30 days after he left Cincinnati. Wow. He hit the portal on December 15th, signed to Texas Tech on January 6th. So by January 15th, which was just about a week ago, he owed $1 million to Cincinnati. This is a part of his NIL buyout clause in his contract. Texas Tech knew all about this. That's why he was given $5 million. So Texas Tech probably said, all right, we'll get $4 million as your value. We'll give you $1 million so you can then go back and pay Cincinnati back for it. Seems like there was no issues with this, but should more schools do this?
Absolutely. All right, and if you want to get something, here's the thing, right? When these schools put these contracts out, and very quickly, I want to touch on a comment that I saw, under that video that I just referenced, and someone said, "Well, what's the difference between the National Football League and what we're seeing in college football right now?" I'll tell you what the difference is: checks and balances when it comes to contracts, and the amount of hoops that you have to go through if you want to demand a trade or if you want to go somewhere. This is why they have a players union. This is why they sit out. This is why they do all of these things. This is why they wait to sign a contract or renew their contract before, so other teams can, again, they can shop the market. Someone else can come in and offer them. That is the stark difference between what we see in the National Football League right now and what we're seeing in college football, because there weren't a lot of these things in place. And so for a school like Cincinnati to take that initiative and be like, no, if we're going to get a player like this, you want to, number one, you want to protect your assets. But number two, if you're going to lose them, you may as well get something out of it. And so I think this is the first step in the direction of schools actually figuring out a way to not necessarily punish the players, that at least at the very least, hold them accountable. Because that, in my mind, Ryan, is the biggest issue. It's not that they want to go to a bigger school. You understand if you're a mid-major. You understand if you're something like even a MAC school or a Big South school. These players are going to leave if they have a chance to go leave and play more significant minutes on a bigger team. But what do you get out of it when you're spending the amount of money that you're spending on them? Because if not, then you're just throwing that money away, right? Like you just handed this large amount after they signed on the dotted line, and now they're just going to run away with your money, right? It's no different than the person who walks into like the meat market and goes, "Hey, can I have a sample of that?" "Cool, thanks." And then they turn around and walk out of the store. Like, it's like, hey, like you can't just take stuff for free and not buy anything, right? That you can't just come to our school and sign on the dotted line and go, "Hey, thanks for my money. I'm going to go peace out and play for this school." I'm absolutely for it.
So if I'm a smaller school, and if I'm looking at both situations, if I'm Duke, first off, when I'm doing what the Soares, maybe Soaresby signed a contract with Cincinnati to stay. We don't know, but if there's a clause in it, maybe that's a way that you can retain some of your players by having a buyout, a release clause, whatever you want to call it. Yep. So if I'm Duke, I'm putting a buyout clause with Darian Mensah. If I'm Washington, I'm putting a buyout clause with Damon Williams if they really are getting tampered with and want to go. But the thing is the buyout clause has to be way more than what the value of your player is, because obviously you want to keep the player. So that's
what we see in professional soccer. If we want to draw a comparison between like international soccer, like the buyouts for a lot of these players is quite significant.
Yeah,
quite significant.
I was gonna go that way, but I'm trying to find Darian Mensah's transfer value. So it's apparently averaging about $4 million. Damn, Mensah's making $4 million a year. So if I'm $4 million a year, I'm putting the value at like $6 million. $6 million is the buyout. Yep. You can have them. You got to pay $6 million, which is a luxury price in terms of quarterbacks. I still think at some point the bubble's got to pop on this whole NIL thing.
It will. Yeah.
But I would say is you have to put a buyout clause. But if I am a small school, like if I'm a MAC school, like you mentioned, I'm having. If they're an incoming freshman, I'm having them sign a 3-year contract. I'm having them sign a 3-year contract. Look, we'll pay you this. It increases every single year. But you are going to have a buyout clause where if you want to go to a different school, you will have to be bought out by another team. Like you introduce this during the recruiting process because, look, we're losing money. We got to have value for some of our players. But you are going to have to, at the end of the 4 years, sure you can leave, but at the same time you're still getting 3 years out of that player. Yeah. 3 years, and you get eventually bought out because eventually you kind of keep them there for a time that you need, but you also give them a time where it feels like, oh, I can still leave after a couple of years and still get my money's worth. And then if I'm bringing in an incoming transfer from a Power 4 school, I'm like 2-year contract. Because after that first year, you bet your ass they're going to try to transfer out again. Yeah. And at that point, I'm putting up. I go 2-year contract. There's a buyout clause. It increases from year 1 to year 2, but you got to get some money out of it. For Darian Mensah's case, look, dude, I get it. You want to go to Miami. I get it. It's also Miami's fault for not having a quarterback post Carson Beck, but that's another discussion. But if you're Mensah, look, dude, you are violating a lawsuit. Like. You are it eventually might cost you way more money than you're actually earning. So just stay at Duke, make your money. You still had an impressive year, over 3,000 yards, I think 30-ish touchdowns. So if that's the case, you just won the ACC, just stick it out. You played well against some of the decent teams, but just I don't think these people realize. I don't think these kids realize, Nate, that like there's legal action. Like I feel like they're just like money. Well,
and it's because the donors are the ones that are paying the money. Like this is a lot of the money that is coming for these players is not coming from the schools directly. So how can you have any sort of legal representation that's going to hold these kids accountable if the money is not coming from the school itself? It's coming from donors. It's coming from backdoor deals. It's coming from the owner of Oracle, whose wife happened to go to the University of Michigan, who was able to work out. We do love her. Well, we'll see if we love her, depending on how next year goes under Kyle Winningham. But that's the hard part. And when I say Wild West, that's exactly what I mean. This money is not flowing from the schools itself. It's flowing from donors. Donors are the ones that are making these decisions with the money. So it's up to the donor. If you want to have legal representation in order to make sure that you're holding these players accountable, then that's their decision. But it's hard for a school to come into the conversation and be like, hey, we had you sign this contract. Well, yeah, but you're not where the money's coming from. So this is where, when we talk about mixing this around, or at least changing the way that this is done, if you want to make sure that at least a portion, if not a large portion of that money is actually funneled through the school, then yeah, they can get legal representation and they can create things like massive buyouts that if another team wants to swoop in and say, hey, we're going to pluck this player from your program, well, no, we paid him X amount. He signed on the dotted line. He signed a 2-3 year contract with our school to play football. Again, much like an organization in the NFL would do so. So if he wants to transfer out or if he wants to go somewhere else, here are all the hoops, here are all the things he has to go through in order to make that happen. But if we're just allowing wealthy donors to just spend as much money as they humanly want to, that creates a completely different situation. If Bryce Underwood was not making over $10 million, I'm telling you right now, Ryan, he would have transferred out. He probably would be back at LSU right now or somewhere else along the line.
I think it also might depend if Sharon's still a coach, because there was no coaching. And clearly with the Utah staff and the offense that they did with Dampier, I'd imagine that might get him to stay a little bit. And, I mean, would you want to go from Sharon Moore to Lane Kiffin in terms of coaches and all the off the field stuff? Would you?
I don't know, man. Lane Kiffin's won a lot. It's LSU. I mean, it's they can't do anything without inviting some level of controversy. But no, you're correct. So that's just the thing that makes all of this screwy. It's like I'm all for the school standing up for themselves, but again, the money is not flowing from the school.
Like if
go ahead.
If we're looking at all these smaller schools, like Utah, just not even smaller schools. Let's take the Power 4 example right now. Utah, for example, Ole Miss. Like if we're looking at Utah and Ole Miss, two programs that had really good season. Ole Miss, really good season. Utah, better season than it was the year prior. They still won 10 games. They went from 5 wins to 10 wins. Excuse me. But you look at it, and what happened? They lost their head coach, and he took the whole staff with him. He brought his offensive coordinator, his quarterback coach, offensive line coach, linebackers coach, tight ends coach. He brought all that. Oh, and guess what? You know what? We know what else we're gonna do. We're going to take your best defensive player on the D-line. We're going to take a D tackle in your rotation. We're going to take your best offensive wide receiver, and we're going to take your best corner. We're going to do all that. And how much money did you make off all that?
Zero. Zilch.
Yeah. I mean, maybe the coach, maybe the offense coordinator or some of the coaches may have had some minor buyouts, maybe, but it was probably way less than to even mention.
Yeah.
But Ole Miss, Lane Kiffin gutted the staff during the playoff, mind you, gutted the staff. Some of those coaches going into the Miami game were bouncing back and forth from their new job to their current one to try to get it going. And then you look at their players. Also, that's kind of on Pete Golding's fault for leaking some of the NIL prices and what players are actually making. That's kind of on him. But they're losing all their players. And guess how much money? At the end of the day, their only memory is, well, we beat, what was it, Tulane in Georgia in the playoff, and then almost beat Miami. Like that's their only memory. They didn't make any. I guess technically some of the prize money, I guess you could say. But if I'm some of these schools, especially the group of 5 schools, and especially some of the smaller Power 4 schools, like I'm looking at a Purdue, what Indiana was, but not a small school now. But I'm looking at some of those schools, and I go, look, and again, same thing goes. I think everything should go with every sport. If it's like basketball in itself too, like you gotta have some buyout clauses. And if you're a player that wants to be out of the situation so bad, barring a coaching switch or anything, you know what? You might have to buy your way out too if the school's not willing to pay it, or you just suck it up like the rest of everybody. Like, I don't know, and it's just at some point you got to give the school some money back. Some point.
Yeah, you have to have your hand in it if you want representation. So that's the hard thing, and you're right. There's certain programs that are going to lose out, but at the end of the day, again, if you just let donors go hog wild, they're the ones that really kind of dictate the terms. So that's why when you talk about this bubble blowing up, it's going to blow up at some point, and everyone knows this isn't a sustainable model. Everybody knows that the NCAA is in over their head. Why do you think they make examples of certain programs? Because they want to give the illusion that they are still in control of what goes on in college football. It's an illusion. It's a farce. It's a lie. The NCAA is incapable of handling what's going on in college athletics right now.
Let's go to college basketball real quick. Charles Bedioko, when was the last time? Oh, he's a professional player for the Motor City Cruise. I didn't know what G League team he played for, but it's the Motor City Cruise here. Charles Bedioko has been granted a temporary restraining order and is immediately eligible to participate for Alabama basketball. He will be eligible to play against Tennessee on Saturday. Because I remember Charles Bedioko because he was a Jawan target. So I remember him a little bit, but I remember he went to Alabama. When did he leave Alabama? That's a good question. When did he leave to go to the stats? That's a better way. But no, this is another. Oh, I don't know if you've actually watched it, Nate. But wow, he doesn't have. He left in 2022 and he's coming back. Oh my Lord.
He played for the Grand Rapids Gold last year. That's how I recognize that name, Bediako.
Oh, Bediako. I don't know, weird name. I'll take your word for it though if you called one of the games. But anyway, I don't know if you've watched, but that James Nanji guy that played for that plays for Baylor now, that left and that got drafted, comes back. He gets booed every time he comes in and every time he touches the ball by the opposing crowd. Maybe it was just the Kansas game, and it's Kansas. But every time he came onto the court, he checked in, boos. Every time he touched the basketball, boos. People realize that this is a little effed up, NCAA, and you're now allowing a player who's been gone for 4 years, to come return to play basketball.
Yeah.
For what is at this point? Honestly, can we get Trey Burke back? Honestly, I know he's getting his number retired. Which I'm going to, by the way, for the people at home. I'm going to.
That's awesome.
Can we get him back? I mean, he only left after 2 years.
Yeah. Can we get Mo back? Can we get Franz back?
They all left early.
Yeah, I mean I imagine they could probably make more money at Michigan, right? Like someone's gonna.
Alabama's 13. It's a good 13-5, 5th in the S. MSU. You might as well get Cassius Winston and Xavier Tillman. You might as well get Jace Richardson. If I'm Michigan,
Draymond Green.
That'll be great. If I'm Michigan, does Ignas Brazdeikis, does he still play basketball? I know he left after 1 year. I mean,
what about Hardaway? Little Tim Hardaway Jr.
He had 1
action?
year left. He technically did. He still got a year of eligibility. At this point, I know we probably won't get to this college football or not college football, the NFL head coaching thing. We'll probably save that for tomorrow. But what is going on with this? And I do have another point that I wasn't on the sheet. But there's just no point in this. At some point, these kids are just avoiding going into the real world and getting jobs. Or they're just avoiding going overseas or in a non-traditional place to go play at their sport that they love.
Or they realize they left too early and that they're not going to get to the NBA. They can't hack it. For whatever reason, they can't get there. And I'll just summarize this because, I know that we try to provide, in-depth explanations as to why this is BS, but this is Bush League. And I agree with the college coaches who second this. You made the decision to leave early to go to the G League. You made the decision to put yourself in that position, and now you're realizing that you're not capable of making the NBA. So what? You go back and you take a position away from someone in college ball? That's somehow going to make you a better prospect because you're going backwards?
No, it shows you quit.
You quit. It's cheap. It's ridiculous. It's all the above. I don't agree with it. And this is something, and I heard John Calipari talk about this, which I think is rich because, obviously Calipari was.
Can I just say it's ironic because I know what you're going to say?
It is ironic. Yeah, he's the king of one and done. I mean, everybody that he got was just let's play 1 year at Kentucky, and then let's go to the G League or whatever they called it back then.
No, that's not what the D League. The D League. Remember that? It was called the D League.
Remember that?
Yeah. No.
When?
Say what you're going to say, because I don't think it's ironic because of that statement.
No, I mean, that's exactly what it is.
If it's the rules be the rules, buddy.
Oh, yeah.
You put 2 schools on probation. Yeah. You hired somebody to take Derrick Rose's SAT for him. You can't say that. Yeah. You can't. It's like if Connor Stallions somehow saw a team steal his signs and he'd be like, "That's not allowed. That's not true." Like you can't say that.
At least own up to the fact, that you were that way.
Like if Rick Pitino came out and talked about illegally recruiting players, you can't say that. Like if you're Calipari, you can't say the rules be the rules. You just can't. It's the other point that I was gonna say, because obviously we're running a little bit low on time, and I think the coach discussion should be a little bit longer than that. I don't know if you've been reading some of these reports, but a lot of these players that hit the portal that haven't signed with the team, and some of them have signed with teams, but a lot worse teams than their team that they left.
Yeah,
have been. I don't know if you've seen this, but they've actually called their school that they say a player from Ole Miss transfers, can't find a place. Before he signs somewhere, he calls Ole Miss, "Hey, can I come back real quick?" And they're like, "No, you left, and we already replaced your spot with another player. We can't do that." So now they're out of luck. And like I just find that really funny. And another thing that I would say is, who the hell are these agents? Because these agents are giving horrible advice to their representatives, saying
it's not about them.
It's, oh, you can get more money here, but then you go into the portal, find out that the money's not there. Like at some point, if you're a player, you got to have a brain a little bit, and before you make a conclusion and jump to a conclusion, find out all the information first and then make that conclusion. Because if I'm a player and I grew up in a rough area, I'm still getting paid $750,000 from the school that I'm playing for that's also paying for my education, I'd say this, and someone tries to tell me, "Dude, you can make $1.5 million by going to this school," and I'm sitting there. Actually, I guess that's not a good example. I guess in terms of the money, but I'm making $100,000 at a school, still getting my education paid for, everything's paid for, and someone tells me you can make $500K by going to this school. I'm sitting there, I'm like, but I have a for sure thing in $100K, but I've never actually seen the paycheck in front of me, and I've never actually met with anything, met people.
Yep.
Show me the money, and then I'll transfer. At some point, you got to have some brains, guys. At some point,
and you know that it happens exactly that way too, because we know how many players have been caught up in portal that all of a sudden come back. It is what it is. Agents are running the game right now, and it's when you talk about 18 to 21, 22. Listen, these parents and these players themselves are not used to this. They're not used to this amount of money. They're not used to these types of negotiations, and so agents rule the roost. And that's what, again, that's what this has turned into. And that's why everybody's like, well, this has turned into a professional league. This is no longer college athletics. This is professional. But it's professional without checks and balances, which is what makes it even more crazy. Let's take one more break. When we come back, we'll get to question of the day. We could definitely carry this conversation into the show tomorrow because I do think it's an interesting one. But we'll get to question of the day on the other side right here on episode 212, Inside the Game. Back live on Inside the Game, our final segment here before we call it quits on Wednesday. Nate Wangler, Ryan Glinsky here deep into we're second week since restarting this show. Again, we appreciate everybody as always. Third week? Are we really? We're in week number 3?
Yeah, because we're past 210. So I think it'll be the third.
Well, look at us, man. Heck yeah. Anyways, let's get into question of the day.
Question of the day, everybody knows the drill by now. Salt Athletic, the official sponsor of Question of the Day and the National Soccer Network. Use promo code NSN15 to save that 15% off of that #1 smell-proof cleat bag that 100% works. Scan the QR code on your screen or visit saltathletic.com today. But question of the day, we talked about some of the shocking sports news that we've seen over the last couple of days. What is the most shocking sports news that you've seen, whether you've seen it on TV, whether you've seen it via social media, but like you just sat in your phone or sitting on the couch and you're just like, wow, that is crazy.
Most shocking sport news I've ever seen. We were talking about Lifetime here.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to say probably Joe Paterno and Penn State. That whole thing that went down. It is amazing to me how quickly a fall from grace can happen when you work in something, when something like that is happening in your program for an extended period of time and you as the head coach don't do anything about it. You see it as a distraction. You want to pass it aside. You don't want to worry about it. You don't want to answer questions. You don't want to investigate because you realize it might incriminate you as a program. We saw that with Michigan State, with Larry Nassar. We've seen that with Ohio State, with, I forget the name of the doctor that they had, their trainer for over a decade, who sexually assaulted many athletes. They had a whole documentary on this. The entire front office at OSU said, we don't believe you. We don't believe anything you have to say. And the thing is that a lot of those people that came forward and talked about it were men, right? And in the culture that we live in right now, like a lot of people are not going to believe men, especially when it comes to the whole assault thing. Like, you're a man, you should be able to protect yourself. Well, I'm sorry. If I get hurt and the only person that I get to go to is that trainer that's doing these horrible things, I don't really have a choice. And of course, they're not the only programs. We've heard the rumors about Bo at Michigan. Obviously, I think a lot of that is unfounded. Maybe it is true. Who knows? I don't want to jump to conclusions. But we've seen that with many programs throughout the course of the country. And to see the fall from grace for someone like Joe Paterno and someone who was beloved at that university, I don't think anybody will ever reach the amount of years that Joe Paterno was at Penn State. I don't think anybody will ever coach in one location that long ever again. It just doesn't happen. I mean, maybe college basketball. Yeah, you can argue that there's certain schools that are give out Greg Campy, sure, that'll give out lifetime contracts. Campy is an example, Izzo an example at Michigan State, but it is rare to find those guys now. But to see, again, just how swift and how sudden and how brutal that fall from grace was for Joe Paterno was probably the most wild sports story that I've seen in my lifetime. But I don't, there's probably a few other ones. I know the Michigan cheating scandal was pretty wild. I thought it was a witch hunt to begin with.
For me, I would say 2. Luka Doncic, because that just came out of nowhere.
That's true. I didn't even think about that one off the dome.
Just thinking of trades. Luka Doncic being traded. Thinking of that one, Luka Doncic being traded, because I was in my bed at school and after a night out, and I was like, what? Am I seeing this right? And Luka getting traded, and obviously then I immediately said that it was rigged, and then what do we see? Cooper Flag is on the Mavs. Just saying. Proves my point. But number 1 would have to be me seeing Robin Van Persie leave Arsenal, go to Manchester United. I'm watching a U.S. men's national team versus Mexico game, friendly. U.S. hasn't beaten Mexico in a long-ass time. I see the U.S. actually beat them. I forgot who scored in that game, but I think the U.S. is wearing their Where's Waldo jerseys. And at the bottom screen of ESPN, I see Robin Van Persie leaves to go to Manchester United, and I was in 3rd grade at the time. He was my guy. He just scored 31 goals for us that year for Arsenal. I cried. I just got his jersey from England. Someone from my dad's work went all the way to England, brought me home a jersey straight from the club shop. I was so heartbroken. And then Van Persie leaves, goes on to win the Premier League the next year, which is Manchester United's last ever Premier League trophy. And then after that year, Van Persie just kind of fell off a cliff. But in that moment, sitting there as a 3-year-old kid with no social media, no news, no nothing at all, didn't even like happen to go look on the computer for anything. No, just happened as watching a USA versus Mexico match, and at the bottom of the screen on ESPN, that rolls across. Yeah, not good.
Oof. Yeah, a couple of different trades. Yeah, and I mean, I remember way back in the day when the Pistons traded Chauncey Billups for Allen Iverson. I remember everybody going wild. Yeah, that oh my God, we got Allen Iverson. Yeah, you talk about falling off a cliff. Yeah, that was one quick way of doing that. But that'll wrap up episode 212 of Inside the Game. As always, we appreciate you guys stopping by. Give us a follow, National Soccer Network, wherever you find your social media.
And Premier Media Group on TikTok.
And Premier Group on TikTok. We're going to be posting our all sports content to that page. But until we talk to you guys for episode 213, it's been another great edition here of Inside the Game. We'll talk to you tomorrow at 9 a.m. right here on the National Soccer Network.
From the biggest matches to the hottest takes, Jonathan Turner and Nathan Wenger bring you the stories, the analysis, and the edge you won't get anywhere else. Streaming live weekdays at 9 a.m. on YouTube, Roku TV, Facebook, Twitter, and all major platforms. No filters, no fluff, just real talk, real soccer. This is Inside the Game.